Story 1. The Ted Lasso Way. When you're alone, ask, are you the type of person who likes it when someone points out that you have something stuck in your teeth? When they inevitably say, yes, respond, good, because I need to tell you that you have a strong odor coming from you. Story 2. Sorry. Did you know you smell so bad that I asked on Reddit how to say it politely? Story 3. Some time ago, I was working as a chef. After we closed, one of the servers took a can of deodorant from a shelf in the office and sprayed it under his arms. I looked up from cleaning the counter and said, I'm sure our customers would appreciate it if you could also use that at the start of your shift. Story 4. This was one of the first things they taught me in a leadership program. I noticed you have a strong odor. It actually consists of a few steps. 1. Say that you noticed it yourself. Not everyone around you, not your neighbors or colleagues, just you. This lessens the awkwardness. 2. Do not present it as an inherent characteristic. Say you have an odor rather than you are. If you have something, you can change it. 3. Use neutral words. To be honest, I am not sure about my choice of the word odor because English is not my native language, but it is the closest I could get to make the point. I tried it and it worked wonders. There is no need to make an awkward situation worse. Story 5. No offense, Jim, but your body odor could knock a buzzard off a gut wagon. Story 6. Take them aside and say, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I wanted to let you know because I'd like to help prevent this from becoming an ongoing issue. Also ask if they're okay and whether they might be ill or in a difficult situation. If they lack access to laundry or hygiene supplies, offer to put together a kit with deodorant, soap, hand sanitizer, wet wipes, or laundry detergent. Story 7. One of my good friends in high school was not shy about suddenly and loudly announcing that somebody on the bus smelled like shit. She probably made many innocent people, as well as the person who smelled, feel self-conscious. Story 8. I have an employee who could singe my nose hairs. His smell is so toxic. Breath and body odor combined. It is like wearing a roadkill scarf. I bought company mints, gave him a whole pack, and told him he needed to use them. I also asked him a couple of times if he was wearing deodorant to get to the point. The smell is not perfect but far better now. You can suffer in silence or bite the bullet and communicate. Story 9. Write them a note signed by the person they have a crush on. Edit the Wikipedia page of their favorite celebrity to include a line such as I married him because he smelled good. Take them to a Korean spa and splurge on a full-body exfoliation treatment. Write erotic fiction in which the woman's kink is good hygiene and accidentally leave it in the open for them to find. Pretend to pass gas loudly and then say you just showered. Cook a batch of curry chicken, go to their place, and repeatedly sniff the air. When they ask what you are doing, say you somehow got curry sauce on the back of your head and the smell is following you. Say I just ate a lot of stinky foods and now my burps are extremely unpleasant. Do you have any gum? Mud wrestle daily. Story 10. It was my turn to be the spokesperson for the study group because they were talking about a friend who smelled like a cat. I spoke to her directly. Hey, I'm sorry and I don't know how to say this, but people have commented that you smell like a cat. The two of them were alone in their house. I imagine I smell like a dog sometimes, especially when it rains, but they have never told me anything. Story 11. As someone who smelled bad and did not know it, I appreciated someone telling me there was a bit of a smell coming from me and asking if everything was all right. Just do not say it in public. Story 12. Please try to bear in mind that while it is often just poor hygiene, not everyone has a choice. I treated a man some years back who had an odd medical problem that made his body odor weapons-grade hell no matter what he did. Washing 3 times a day, medical-strength deodorants, special soaps, changing clothes, you name it. Nothing worked. I could tell when he arrived from 6 meters away and even from the next room, and spending half an hour in a small room with him was pretty rough. He was a lovely man, and his life really suffered because everyone he met assumed he was filthy or could not stand the smell. When I last saw him, he was waiting for surgery to sever nerves and stop his armpits sweating, with no guarantee it would work or change things if it did. It was a very tough road. Story 13. Speak in private and use the nicest words you can muster. Anything less could have the opposite effect. Shaming does not work well in this scenario. Story 14. I am seeing this post right now while the person next to me on the bus smells rancid as hell. Laughing my ass off. Story 15. Mr. President, many people say you have a strong odor. Believe me. Story 16. I usually open by saying I am the type of person who looks out for people I like and tells them when they have spinach in their teeth. I then say there is an odor around you that people are starting to notice, so you can do something about it. Story 17. In my freshman year of high school, I came from a very low-income neighborhood and background. I had to ride my longboard or bike everywhere because my parents were not around and I was in a pretty bad foster family who were drug addicts. I rode everywhere. To school, home, stores, and doctor's appointments. I had limited access to showers and I smelled badly. I did not have good hygiene. I brushed my teeth maybe once a week and showered at the same rate. After a class, someone asked me politely, "Are you having trouble showering? Do you need any help with body wash or shampoo?" I broke down crying, opened up about my trauma, and about a week later I received a gift basket with a loofah, shower gel, shampoo and conditioner, and a toothbrush and toothpaste set. I did not ask for anything, but my situation was bad and I had been living my life not caring. Now I have friends I hang out with on a weekly basis, a good home and social life, and I cannot really complain. What I am getting at is that I did not care about myself enough to do anything about my body odor. I was asked a heartfelt question, and even if it was asked out of spite, it helped me more than the person could ever know. They became one of my best friends to this day. I am not saying that being told about body odor works every time. I doubt a gift basket would be effective most of the time, but it worked for me. I became much more aware of my problem and led a better, cleaner life, no matter what I went through. Life can bog people down, and they will forget to care for themselves while waiting in that bog of smell. I started showering at the local Young Men's Christian Association every day. Story 18. Yo, my brother, your sweat is very strong. It smells like you just came from the gym. Use that as an excuse until you hit the shower, and return the favor if I am ever in the same position. Love. Story 19. Step 1. Make sure you are at a safe distance of about 10 feet. Step 2. Raise your left hand to nose level and gently pinch your nose. Step 3. Raise your right hand to nose level and fan it up and down while keeping your left hand pinching your nose. Step 4. Establish eye contact with the target. Step 5. Profit. Story 20. In high school, my friend had a body odor that many classmates noticed. I decided to be honest and gently told her she should consider using deodorant because sometimes she did not smell her best. Thankfully, she took my advice to heart, and since then she has consistently smelled pleasant and maintained excellent hygiene. Sometimes a direct, caring approach is the most effective. Story 21. Hey, just so you know, you smell bad right now. I wanted to tell you so you can fix it. Hey, I think something smelly brushed up against you at some point. You might want to take a shower and change clothes. Story 22. With all due respect, you smell very bad. Story 23. You cannot really be polite because you are telling them about a flaw. You can be gracious and thoughtful about how you do it. Always provide an opportunity for them to save face. This can include 1. I have not noticed you having this problem until recently. 2. I had this same problem and I realized what caused it, so I have totally been there. 3. I only brought it up because I know that you are a thoughtful and conscientious person, and I would want someone to tell me. Story 24. I once worked in a small team where a colleague smelled very bad, stale sweat and the works. Finally, we summoned the courage to tell him. He replied that he did not care because he had lost his sense of smell as a teenager and saw no point in buying things like deodorant that were useless to him. After that, the gloves came off. Story 25. I never said anything until I was in my supervisor's office one day. A short time later, a coworker walked by and another coworker waved her hand in front of her face. I asked about the coworker and she said yes. The supervisor had not noticed. She called our intern into her office and asked if he had noticed. He said he had. The supervisor and her manager spoke with the coworker. It turned out he did not have a working washing machine and had recently been widowed, so depression may have been a factor. The next day he came to work and did not smell anymore. A friend was letting him use their laundry once a week. Story 26. I remember that in college I was taking a course that was 98% female. The students were convinced that one woman smelled terrible and got together to politely give her some deodorant. I never noticed anything remotely smelly about her. I am pretty sure they were just picking on the less popular student. It was an interesting insight into how girls interact. Story 27. Do not be dishonest with them. Pull them aside and tell them directly, respectfully. It is much more hurtful to send videos about their hygiene. Story 28. You pull them aside, away from others, and tell them that they might want to give themselves a quick spray of deodorant because they are a little whiffy and people are starting to notice. Then hand them a can of deodorant. If there is a problem with their water at home or a health issue causing the odor, and you know about it, do not say anything. They probably already know and do not need you to add to their frustration by pointing it out. Instead, discreetly offer deodorant if you have it. In either case, I have a poor sense of smell and probably would not notice anyway. Story 29. Once, in a college class at 9 in the morning, a guy I had recently become friends with took 2 pieces of gum out of his pack and offered me one while putting the other in his mouth. I declined, and he said, "Sorry, but I do think you need this." I was embarrassed, but I took the gum and it was never mentioned again. He didn't make me feel bad or say I smelled. He simply offered a solution and we chewed gum together. After that, I made sure to brush my teeth after breakfast and coffee. I don't know how to deal with body odor, though. Story 30. Be compassionate and direct. My sister smelled like cat feces for weeks. I don't think she believed me, but I told her she smelled strongly of feces. I had to get my mom involved as an impartial sniffer to confirm it. It turned out there was cat feces in her wardrobe, and she had become accustomed to the smell. I don't know how that affected her sense of smell afterward. Story 31. I work in information technology field service. A customer information technology representative always complained about his dry love life. Every time I saw him, he talked about video games, projects he was working on, and his failed dates. He always smelled bad and was covered in loose hair and dandruff. I eventually had to ask him if he prioritized his hygiene. Though he was offended at first, I explained, perhaps the first time he had heard it. He has since cleaned up a bit and seems happier. Story 32. I think taking someone aside and saying it in a non-judgmental, clear way is the best approach. Don't do it in front of others, and ideally choose a setting where they can address the issue right away. A friend of mine is a doctor who now works in the emergency room but used to be a psychologist. He once told me there is nothing worse than patients arriving smelling of decomposition, a smell you never forget. The worst part is that you often cannot help them. Story 33. Eat eggs for a week, then pass gas close to them and say, "At least this doesn't smell as bad as your body odor. Am I right?" Story 34. You need a shower. If they take offense, then you are hanging with the wrong people. Story 35. I've said, "I smell body odor. Is it me?" I ask them to smell me. When they say no and I smell them, I say, "It's you. I'm sorry." Story 36. Me asked, "Do you always shower after sex?" Them replied, "Yes." I replied, "You should get laid more often." Story 37. I think everyone has had that sour laundry odor in their clothes at some point. It just happens sometimes. It's no big deal to let them know. Story 38. We have a coworker who smells strongly in any room he's in. He has a cloud with a 10-foot radius. I told him, "You need to shower once a day, wear properly cleaned and dried clothes, and use strong deodorants such as Sure or Right Guard." He replied, "I already do all that. So why does no one want to go near him?" Management has told him as well, but he is not listening. The smell persists. Story 39. My wife had a coworker who smelled like dirty cooch. I don't even remember her real name because we only referred to her as Tuna Pussy when talking about her. Story 40. This is not really a warning, but a story. Several years ago, I was in 6th or 7th grade social studies. I do not remember which. There was a kid in the class who was notorious for being gross. The bell rang and everyone left. He got out of class before me because I was still packing up. Where he had been sitting, the carpet was wet, like a spilled water bottle, and when I walked past, my nose was assaulted by the smell of feces. He had already left the class. I am 90% sure he had soiled himself. A few weeks ago, a good friend who still goes to school with him told me a story. The same kid was in a room, the bell rang, and people refused to enter the classroom because it smelled so bad. These were not isolated incidents. This had been a long-standing problem. The next day he came in and did not smell bad. Summary: the smelly kid likely soiled himself in class. Recently he made a room smell awful and people refused to enter, but the next day he smelled normal. For those confused, I am 17 now. Story 41. Honesty. Not brutal or rude honesty. More like, hey bud, you probably cannot tell, but I want you to know. Story 42. Just say that you cannot wait for someone to buy you some deodorant for Christmas. Story 43. Disclaimer. I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, but it worked. Years ago, we had a man in our office who had severe body odor and bad breath. It was difficult to work with him because he smelled so bad. One day our boss became fed up and brought a gift basket to work containing deodorant, body spray, toothpaste, a toothbrush, and mouthwash. He told the man that if he was going to work here, he would need to use these. His hygiene improved enough to be tolerable, and he transferred to another office within a year. Story 44. You'll get in trouble for smelling like marijuana at work, but no one cares when you smell like fish, feces, and body odor. Sad world we live in. Story 45. When you greet someone, lean in for a hug, then wrinkle your nose and switch to a handshake. Story 46. Just say, why do I smell feces when you are near them? Story 47. Tell them directly that they smell bad and need better hygiene. If they take offense, that is their problem. You do not have to put up with it. If they are at all reasonable, the embarrassment may encourage them to improve. Being polite often gets nowhere. Be direct and blunt. No one has really held it against me afterward, even if they seemed upset in the moment. Story 48. Look, I love you like a brother. You know that. Please don't take this the wrong way, but I'm getting tear-gassed over here. What do you say we head over to J.C. Penney after work and find you a good cologne set that will make the ladies swoon? Story 49. As a person living in the Netherlands, where nobody beats around the bush, be direct. Story 50. I prefer to deliver bad news in limerick format. There once was a fellow named Chad, whose odor was terribly bad. With a sniff and a frown, people ran out of town, saying, Chad, please take a bath. We're so glad. Story 51. This is easy. Smile. Hey, just to let you know, you smell like shit. Story 52. Dude, I'm bored. Would you like to try deodorants with me? Story 53. Cunt. You fucking stink. Take a shower, you smelly hobo. Story 54. I am politely direct with others. If I were walking around with dragon breath, please tell me. Story 55. My good sir or madam, the aura emanating from you offends my nose. Story 56. I would not have to say anything because I would be puking and dry heaving. I lost most of my hearing from a cancer drug, but I am grateful for the medication and I wear hearing aids. This has made my sense of smell very acute, like a bloodhound. Tell me directly in private and be very helpful. Maybe offer a small white lie that you once had this issue and someone helped you. Best, Masha. Story 57. Just a friendly note for your information. You could use a little freshening up. Story 58. My new go-to phrase when someone I know smells really bad calls me is I can smell you over the phone. Story 59. Put yourself in their position and say it the way you would want to hear it. Story 60. Good smells have always been chasing you, but you've always been faster. Story 61. Personally, I would want someone to pull me aside and quietly tell me, I do not have a sense of smell, And despite showering daily, I am always paranoid that I stink. I have my girlfriend on standby to tell me, and if I am at home, I will take a quick shower. A question for those who can smell. Can you smell your own odor? I know that may sound like a stupid question, but I really do not know. Story 62. There is really no polite way to tell them. If you do not know them well enough, it is better not to say anything. It may make them feel awkward or embarrassed. Story 63. If it is something they can fix in 10 minutes, tell them. If it is something they cannot fix, let it be. Story 64. More information. How close are you to them? Not in proximity, but relationship-wise. If you know them very well, being direct in private will likely have the best results. If you do not know them well, it is harder. They may know and feel awful about it, but cannot afford to have their water turned on. They may be skipping meals and cannot afford deodorant. They may have a mental illness and be struggling with basic hygiene. It really depends on where they are, and it is not your business unless they invite you to hear their story. Or they may not know and need to be told. It is all up in the air unless we have more information. Story 65. As someone who has worked several jobs that require being outdoors and in an office at the same time, you all should pull your heads from your asses. I can smell nice all fucking day if I avoid breaking a sweat and avoid doing my job, or I can do the necessary work and be a bit funky. I would gladly take a shower every time I step outside, but that is not provided and especially not expected. I sweat a lot, whether in summer because it is hot or in winter because I am bundled. There are no ways around this for some people, and a person's role should be taken into consideration before confronting them. You might not want to smell my body odor, but maybe I do not want that perfume smell lingering either. Story 66. Take the person to one side and say you are sorry to have to tell them this, but they have an unpleasant odor. If you are going to have sex, say you will freshen up quickly and suggest they do the same. Story 67. Spontaneously retching while making direct eye contact. Edit. You asked for a polite response. I have no idea how to do that. Story 68. Take a quick sniff, then ask him with obvious disgust on your face whether he is eating street rats. Story 69. If I have a helper at work on a given day, I sometimes stop at CVS Pharmacy after making a delivery and think, oh, I forgot deodorant today. I leave it in my backpack and tell them to help themselves to snacks, and they usually do. Story 70. I am bored. Let's put deodorant on. Other options include brushing our teeth or changing our clothes. Story 71. A classic gift is a shower set for a birthday or the holidays. Story 72. I had a coworker who constantly smelled. I later learned they only showered once a week. You can say there must be a sewer problem nearby because something smells. More seriously, find a private moment with the person and say politely, I mean this kindly, but you have body odor. Story 73. I have a colleague at work who has a strong body odor. It is unpleasant, especially when entering a room after him. I am not on good terms with him, and I do not know how to address this politely. I need to be diplomatic to avoid trouble. Story 74. My son worked in a physically demanding indoor and outdoor job. An office manager told him he needed to use deodorant. He was hurt and embarrassed because he already showered and applied deodorant every morning, but he developed body odor later in the day, so he began reapplying. He left that job shortly afterward. Story 75. There is no polite way to tell someone they smell bad. If the person in question is someone close, I tell them to take a shower, and if I do not tell them, I try to get away from them. Story 76. Acknowledge that what you are about to say will be awkward and might embarrass them. If you were in their shoes, you would not want to hear it either. Tell them they have body odor. It is painful to say and to hear, but this needs to be said. Story 77. Gift bath products and deodorant with a smile. A smile is important, otherwise it can seem rude. Do not gift these items if the recipient is a woman, as it may make things worse. Story 78. The speaker walks over and sniffs them, says, "EW, you smell so fucking bad," gives a disgusted look, and slaps them with a deodorant can. Story 79. Hello, I do not know if you changed soap recently or are using a different laundry detergent, but there is a distinct unpleasant odor. Sometimes soaps react with body chemistry and produce bad smells. I would switch back if I were you. Story 80. I did this once to break the ice. I asked, would you tell me if I smelled bad? They replied, sure, I guess. Then it was much easier to say, okay, because you kind of smell bad. No offense. Story 81. I had a coworker who was very smelly and greasy. No one could stand being around him. He always had a habit of getting really close to female coworkers and reaching up to grab something, and the smell would hit you like a ton of bricks. Everyone was too nice to say anything directly, so we started putting signs up around work that said no off-putting body odors. Please shower before coming to work. We even asked his girlfriend to tell him to shower, to no avail. The best and most polite way is to tell him straight up, hey bud, you really need to shower. Maybe offer him an artisanal bar of soap or some lavender body wash. Story 82. Just curious, how often do you shower? Did you go to the gym earlier today? If you are at my home, I can give you a towel and my deodorant. It works well. Story 83. Hey, is everything okay? I noticed you and want to let you know that I am here to help if you need anything. Story 84. Put on deodorant and wash your clothes. Please brush your teeth. If it's my parents, you stink. Point blank. Nothing is worse than getting dressed in the morning and smelling something awful. It turned out my pants had spent too long in the washing machine. Oh my God, do they stink. Story 85. Buy one of those little scent trees, hang it on their shirt, and walk away. Story 86. What about if it is a random person you do not know? I really wanted to tell the person sitting by me at the movies last night that they needed to reapply deodorant if that is how they smelled. Every time they moved, their musty odor wafted toward me. On top of that, they kept biting their fingers and possibly picking their nose and eating it. I was trying not to look and felt very disgusted. Let me know if anyone would say something, or if that would be too rude. Story 87. This time of year is perfect for Secret Santa. Give them toiletries, body sprays, and similar small gifts. Story 88. At a previous workplace, there was a woman who had an unpleasant body odor. Co-workers talked about it, not always kindly, and debated how to tell her. One of the senior staff decided to speak to her gently. She approached when they were alone and said, "Have you got any deodorant? I'm sweating and worried I smell." The woman replied, "I'm the same. No matter how many times I shower, I sweat a lot." She was clean but did sweat more than others. I never thought she smelled that bad. She was attractive and we became intimate a couple of times. I can assure you she did not smell during those moments and was very good. Story 89. Some people do not take advice and get worse. I know a 21-year-old woman who is a recluse. We discussed deodorant. She said she uses Menon because it is strong, then suggested the odor might come from her shoes. The last time I saw her, her fingernails were filthy. I do not want to keep criticizing her. I am only a family friend. She just does not care. Story 90. Look them in the eye and ask why they smell bad. Be blunt and honest, but do not be cruel. Story 91. Sometimes, when it's just the two of you, such as in a private office or a car, let one rip with a particularly rank fart. If they complain, respond, "Oh, I didn't think that you'd notice it over the constant stench that emanates from you." Story 92. Get a deodorant and show it. Then say, "Wow, that's a cool item. Are you using it?" Story 93. I have had to do this before and, like many other posters here, I decided to be direct and honest. I suggested that if it were me, I would be horrified if people thought they could smell me, so I would want to know. Story 94. My brother is 24 years old and won't shower or brush his teeth for days, unless someone tells him to his face that he smells like onions and sweat. We do not like to be rude about it, but there is no way to tell him like a mature adult. He acts like an angry child, argues that he does not smell that bad, and continues until someone points out he has food stuck to his teeth and his socks smell so badly they seem to stand up on their own. He will wear the same pair for weeks until they get holes. He is very immature for his age, but there is nothing mentally wrong with him. He is just lazy and thinks he does not have to shower unless he is going somewhere. That is not my issue, but when he sprawls out on the couch and it starts to smell like his body odor, I draw the line. The couch is used by everyone, and people who sit where his armpits rested will begin to smell like him. When I tell him this, he usually gets defensive, saying he does not smell that bad or that he did not rest his armpits on the couch. I end up yelling at him to wash himself and stop making excuses, or to go to his room and relax there since the living room is not his personal space. He will usually cave in and wash himself, but not brush his teeth. Since I smoke marijuana, he often asks to share my bowl or joint. I decline because I do not want to share something that touched my lips with someone who has food caked on his teeth and bad breath. Sometimes he leaves it at that and walks off, or he actually brushes his teeth so he can join me. I never had a problem with him smoking with me. I just do not want cheesy joints. There is not always a nice way to tell someone they stink. Some people do not care or have gone nose blind. One tactic I use when we go to the store is to ask his opinion on colognes, pretending I am shopping for myself. If he likes a scent, I spritz it on both of us and say we both smell great, then buy one for me and one for him. Asking directly is hit or miss. Some people get offended, and some do not want to be told they smell but still want to be around others. Story 95. During a difficult period of my childhood, I had problems with personal hygiene. My grandmother used a subtle approach and suggested I change my shirt because it smelled. I understood immediately that I was not taking care of it. As adults, I do not think indirect hints are the best approach. A direct, kind approach is better. Show that you mean well and that you just want to help. Story 96. I definitely agree with the comments here. Once a coworker told me privately and respectfully that I had bad breath at work. It was the nicest thing anyone at that job ever did because I would not want to have bad breath either. I also had to have the same conversation the other way around often as a manager in food service. You just have to create a safe space for your comment and hope they listen. Story 97. A trusted colleague took me aside once and said, "Hey, have a mint. You smell like you've been at the pub all night." I appreciated the tip from a friend who cared about me. Whether it is a hangover, a rotten tooth, bacterial vaginosis, or simply not washing properly, tell the person. You can say, "You usually smell good, but something is different. What's going on?" Sometimes people cannot smell it themselves and need to know. Story 98. My office hired a man who had worked in a nursery before joining us. Most of us worked from 7 a.m. until at least 6 p.m. He would visit me in my small office a couple of times a week around 3 p.m. He smelled of body odor. I hated it and did not know how to tell him. During a check-in meeting with our office manager, I admitted that he smelled bad in the afternoons. A few days later, he came to visit me and no longer smelled. He was mad at the office manager for telling him to wear deodorant. Story 99. Tell them about an awesome new deodorant or perfume you think they should try. Story 100. Invite them to take a shower or ask what perfume they are using. Laughing out loud. Story 101. Spray them with deodorant and pretend you accidentally pointed it the wrong way. Story 102. Excuse me, sir or madam. I believe your odor resembles feces or the smell of a public restroom. Story 103. I told my son to try this deodorant. He came home from school smelling awful. I was so shocked. Story 104. On Jackass, Ryan Dunn was reportedly quite dirty, so they had him perform many water stunts. Story 105. Do you know when John Denver sang, "You light up my senses, like a night in the forest"? Well, you light up mine like sarin to the olfactory sense. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.